We certainly got quite the project here today. This is a 2002 Yamaha YZ250F, and it needs a lot of work. This bike came to me exactly how you see it. There was no engine in it, carburetor just hanging out. This is how it came to me. Now, it's been a little while since this got dropped off, so I don't remember exactly if he was driving this and it blew up or whatnot, but the engine blew. That's all I know. But anyways, he took the engine out of the bike, tore it all down, or tore the top end off of it, saw it was more of a job than he could handle or that he wanted to do. I don't know, either one. So he brought it here. He ended up throwing the engine back together somewhat. You know, everything was just kind of tossed on there. But if I have the original footage of me tearing that down, I'll throw it in here right now. You guys can check it out. If not, well, we'll just start the rebuild process. All right, here she is, ready to be torn down. I don't exactly know what's wrong with this engine. The owner took it out of the bike. He actually tore this down, he said. He said it needed a crank and piston rings, and then he put it all back together. Maybe so he didn't lose bolts. I don't know. But I'm going to tear it down and find out. Start at the top, work our way down. Okay, so obviously no timing chain. It's already down there, so we'll go ahead and tear these cams off. None of these bolts are very tight. Not tight at all. All right. This should pop off now. Definitely a little scarring in there. All right. Piston definitely has some scarring, especially on that side. Crank is completely locked up. Connecting rod anyways. You can see how hot that thing got. This thing is locked. That's definitely stripped. Let's have one broken bolt right here because that looks like JB Weld to me. Looks like the oil filter cap's missing a bolt unless that's broke. A lot of shavings in there. What is going on there? Oh, JB Weld, more JB Weld. This engine is pretty rough. Look at that bolt. It's bent, so obviously they hit it and they never even took the bolt out or replaced it. They just JB welded over the case. Alrighty. I don't really want to go any further at this point because the owner wanted to re-ring this piston, throw a new connecting rod in there and be on his way, and he wanted to race this thing this spring. It's gonna need some more work than that. I mean, I wouldn't reuse this piston. I certainly would get that replated if I was gonna race this thing. So minimum, in my eyes, rebuild the crank, new piston, replate the cylinder or a new cylinder. We can't reuse that case. We're gonna have to buy a new clutch side case. And possibly more if we go further. So I'm gonna double check with the owner and then we'll get back to this. Let's go ahead and remove this flywheel. Just like that. Some shavings in there. Go ahead and remove this gasket. Go ahead and remove our stator plate. Go ahead and flip her over now. Start with our Kickstarter gear. Go ahead and check out the condition of the oil pump. These edges need to be perfectly smooth to get good oil pressure. As you can see, they're all pitted. You got some debris and just a lot of pitting in there. Definitely gonna need a new oil pump. This thing's gonna need a lot of parts. Pull our shift shaft out, which has seen better days for sure. We'll just start unbolting the crankcase. I didn't notice this until just now. She's been welded up before, but that's actual weld instead of JB weld, so that's good. Yeah. Surprisingly, all the bearings feel okay in here. Go ahead and remove our gear sets. Everything looks good on the gears there. Shift drum. Alright. Surprisingly, all the gears look good. Look at this gear for the timing chain. It is chewed up bad. So I'd get a new timing chain, new crank, because this thing, it's locked up. They are rebuildable. However, this gear is not. The sprocket on this is so worn, I can't even get the bearing out of it because the teeth are so rounded up that it's actually making it wider, so it won't come out. Crank, cylinder, piston, oil pump, this case, the shifter shaft. I wished I had better news, but between the crank, piston, cylinder, an oil pump, the timing chain, the shift shaft, main bearings for the crank, and a gasket set, we're looking at like $1,200 in parts, probably another $500 in labor. It's gonna be an expensive fix. That is a new OEM crank, Wisico piston and cylinder. So yeah, after you see that all turned down, it needed a lot of work. Ordered all that stuff. All right, so I don't have time to do a full video of this, but this is the 2002 Yamaha YZ250F rebuild. I'm gonna go ahead. I put new bearings in this thing already, so I didn't care for these cases. They've got nick marks. I did not do these. This was like that when I tore it down. If you guys see the video of the teardown, you know that. We got welds on the cases, obviously. I threw some brake clean on this side and let it sit for a while. It did not leak, so I guess we're going to use it. Even this side has been welded, I believe. It was this side, right? Of course, we got chewed up down here a little bit. And yeah, it looks to me like it's been welded here as well. But anyways, new bearings installed already. We got the new oil pump. I'm going to throw that in it. And then crank, everything. I'm going to put this back together, get it running again. Transmission all installed. I'm going to go ahead and seal this up with the Yamaha Bond 4. We got our crankshaft right here, taken out of the freezer. You can see it's a little frosty. Throw a little oil on the crank bearing. And nice. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Go ahead and install these crankcase bolts. Our new oil pump we're going to be installing. Get the new Wisco piston, whatever you want to call it, installed, and the new cylinder to go along with it. And we got some head studs. So as you can see, I got the whole cylinder head disassembled, everything out of there, all the valves, seals, everything, got it cleaned up. I found some bad valves. As you can see, they're starting to cup, so they definitely need to be replaced. We got 5 brand new Kibble White precision valves here, and we're gonna throw some new valve seals in, and we'll go from there. I guess my shim's ready to go, ready to shim this thing up, and then we can start throwing the rest of that engine together. All right, as you can see, all the valves are installed. I got the cams all installed. I'm gonna have to take them back off, but what I did is installed everything, checked the valve clearance. They were off. Of course, new valves, they're gonna be off, so I had to reshim to the correct specs on the intake. Set the intake to about 006. It's about 004 to 006 thousandths, so I set them a little on the loose side because these tend to tighten up because the valves will stretch and then they'll tighten up a little bit. So set them on the loose side, within spec though. And then the exhaust was 0067 to 0085 and 0087, I guess. So I set those on the loose side as well. I got these set to 008. So 8 thousandths of an inch. And then, of course, I read everything in inch, but when we're talking the shims, everything's in metric. You know, it's this is like a 2.1 millimeter, so you got to convert it over, divide by 25.4 or whatever you want to do. But so these are set now. I'm going to pull these caps back off. Go ahead and install everything on the engine. Still got to tighten down all that. I have to install the new head gasket, put this on, torque it down to spec, and then I can put the timing chain on, of course, and all that good stuff. New piston, cylinder, crank, all that. Time for a head gasket. Oh yeah, I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but we got head studs in here that came with the kit. Instead of using the head bolts that come with it, these are much stronger, less prone to blowing a head gasket, so we went with the head studs, and let's continue on. Chain guide in. Put our cylinder head on. Getting closer. Get the cylinder head all bolted down. Get the cams installed. Get it timed properly. Dot there. Dot there. E and I. Yeah, so this thing. And then, of course, I just threw the flywheel on to get my top dead center with the case here. So in this little peephole where the cross slat is, you gotta line up the mark here, and then yeah, you just throw it on top dead center and we're good to go. Of course, you want to make sure your piston's at top dead center, which it is. Timing chain and tension are all installed, ready to throw all this together. I still got to do the clutch side, of course, and then we'll get ready to throw this in the bike. Clutch all installed, time for the side case. Got all on there, now the cover. Throw a water pump impeller on there. And install our charging unit. Get that all bolted down. Time for the flywheel. I already get the keyway in there. Alright, got everything back together. Head cover, everything's back together on this thing. Just gotta throw a sprocket, shifter, the Kickstarter on there, and we should be good to go. Go ahead, throw our sprocket on. I got this cover on, new seals. Throw that sprocket on. Nut on. Torque that down to spec. Flip this over. Probably leave all this other stuff. I'll leave the shifter and the Kickstarter off until we get in the bike, and then I'll install everything, and we should be good to fire this thing up. Now that the engine's finally put together, we can go ahead and throw it back in the bike. So this bike has been problem after problem, so I don't know why this surprises me, but I was about to throw the engine in there, went and give it a quick bath, discovered something new that's not good. So I pulled the oil on. How this works, the oil actually goes into the frame on this bike. So that's basically the reservoir. It is a dry sump engine, so not much oil gets held in the engine. This is basically like your tank. It's built into the frame. So anyways, I pulled the hoses off so I could get everything clean in here. And when I did that, I started looking at the mount, and I saw, of course, water got in there from me pressure washing it, and I noticed a slight, it looked like a crack, and it goes all around this, and definitely a crack. It goes way over here. So, I mean, we're this far into this engine rebuild. I'm gonna have to just weld that up, I guess. So yeah, more and more work on this thing. All right, we're getting there. We get the engine in, bolted down. We are missing the top mount, and I confirmed with the owner, made sure he didn't have it because I didn't have it. He said that it did not come with one, so we're obviously going to have to get one of those. I guarantee, well, I can't guarantee that, but I'm guessing what happened is this mount, they probably ran it without it. Whatever happened to it, broke, got missing, whatever, and it put that much more stress on this mount up here, and that's why it cracked that. So before he runs this thing much at all, I would definitely get that top mount put on there. So hopefully he does that. Hopefully he takes my advice on that one. But yeah, I'm ready to fire this thing up. I'm gonna throw the muffler on real quick. I don't know, I might put the tail section on first. We'll see. I did pull the carb off and just cleaned out, there was a little gunk in there, a little white residue from sitting forever. So I did pull that off, cleaned it out, stuck it back on, and we'll give her a try. Who knows, this is an 02, this is the first year they made this bike, the 250F. Not sure, I'm guessing these are very finicky. All the older 4-strokes seem to be. We got choke here. It does have a hot start right on the carburetor, which is it's the first one I've seen actually on the carb. Usually they have them on the handlebar if they have a hot start. So what that does is it gives you more air instead of the choke. It's the opposite of the choke. So if this thing's hot, usually they run it pretty rich, and it could flood out, especially if you stall it during a race or something. So you pull this hot start, and it gives it more air, and it should help it start right up. So that's what that is. I'm going to continue on, and hopefully next time you see this, it'll be running. All right, well, she's all back together now, and I did get it running. However, it was a process. It was just one thing after another. Nothing too huge, but these engines are a little finicky anyways, so I kicked it over. Thought maybe it flooded it, thought maybe... I didn't know what. Like I said, I went through the carburetor. I would have done this all on the camera, but I just trying to get this stuff taken care of, trying to get caught up on work, so that's why I'm not taking the extra time to video all this stuff, unfortunately. I'll get back to that for sure, but just not right now. But I figured I'd get you something. So, like I said, I pulled the carburetor, cleaned it all out. It was fairly clean in there. A little bit of white gunk, like I said, cleaned it out, and we were good to go. Checked the flow, everything looked good, everything was moving smoothly. So I thought we were good there. It went to go fire it up, it didn't start. Kicked it over quite a few times. Pulled the spark plug, made sure I had spark because I haven't seen this thing fire yet. It did have spark, so we were good there. I thought it looked like it had a little gas on it, so I thought it might have been flooded out a little bit. These have accelerator pumps, and I think I hit the gas a couple times or something, whatnot. Either way, so I dried the plug out, put it back in, kicked it over a few more times, and nothing. So I went and I said, well, I'll drain the carburetor out, pulled the screw off the bottom of the bowl, no gas. What's going on there? So I pulled the carburetor off. The needle valve, somebody, I don't know if it was leaking gas at one time, somebody must have bent the little prong on the float up to push the needle valve up further. There was no gas getting by that, so I don't even know how this thing ran before. But anyways, I've got that situated, got the float set to the right height, and it fired right up. Been driving it a little bit. I broke it in a little bit, eased on the throttle a few times here, started it up, warmed it up a little bit, shut it right down. checked everything, checked the oil, everything looked good. Coolant, filled that up, finished filling that up. And then I took it out, did a couple little easy just test runs there, and it seems fine. So it's still definitely very early. That engine doesn't have, it's probably got 35-40 minutes on it right now, so it's definitely in break-in mode. But let's go give it a little test run. Alrighty, let's go ahead and fire this thing up. Get it at the top dead center here. Here she goes. Raining out, of course. Anytime I want to do something, of course it's got to rain. I'm gonna go easier on her. Like I said, engine's definitely still in the break-in process. Does get pretty good power from what I can tell so far. I'm not really used to these racing bikes. Definitely a little different here. That's just getting onto the throttle a little bit. You can tell they don't have as much torque as some of the other bikes, but when you increase the revs, they will move then. But yeah, engine sounds good. Tuned pretty well for me not messing with the carb too much. Yeah, not bad. The gears are so close together on this thing. Yes, sir. Oh, that's what you want to see after dumping all that time and money into a engine rebuild. Speed. Yeah, I don't know how fast this thing would go, but it seems like it would top out pretty quick. Definitely get there quick, but yeah, big difference trying to lug this engine. There's, it doesn't have as much, but when you increase the revs, she will go. But I guess that's like with anything. My 450 Honda, though, that's got enough power where you have the torque as well. Yep. Well, I'd say another job done. I am certainly glad to have this thing done, get it gone. Can't wait for the owner to pick it up. And then I can get paid because it's spent a little bit of money here. I did tell the owner that he wants to definitely get that top mount on there. I'm guessing that's probably what broke the bottom mount, the front mount anyways. So definitely need a top mount on there. And once he gets that on, then he can go ahead and hammer on this thing. Easy on it for a little while because I'm still in the break-in process. But for now, I would definitely take it very easy. No big jumps, no big, huge hammering pulls until he gets that top mount on there.